Eyewitness News.
A Talbot County judge sentenced Dorothy Stevenson to life in prison for the murder of her husband. The 36-year-old woman was convicted of throwing gasoline on her husband and setting him ablaze. He died about a month after the incident in the couple's Bozeman, Maryland home. The judge also sentenced Ms. Stevenson an additional 3 years for arson. William and Emily Harris, founders of the Symbionese Liberation Army, pleaded guilty to 1 count of kidnapping. Newspaper heiress Patricia Hearst. It was a surprise plea bargaining move on the Harrises' part, and in return, the state dropped a stronger kidnap charge, one that didn't include any chance for parole. October 3rd is the date set for the Harrises' sentencing. As much as half the office supplies Washington Area General Services Administration stores buy from private companies never make it to those stores, apparently because of payoffs. Today's Washington Post quotes federal investigators saying they uncovered corruption in 27 of 30 Washington area GSA stores, finding about $37.6 million being paid by the federal government each year for pencils, waste baskets, and for other supplies, but goods worth half that much showing up. The deputy administrator of the GSA, Paul Golding, admitted there is a big problem within the organization, but he told our Washington Eyewitness News reporter Val Himes investigators kept the problem too long under wraps.
Sorry to say that apparently this sort of thing has gone on. It's gone on for a long time. It's very distressing to me. I've worked in government, city, state, and federal all my life, and I've never seen a mess like this.
Page 13.
Golding added that because of the size of the GSA, there's plenty of room for wrongdoing. But, Richard, he also said that with the proper management and leadership, it all could have been prevented.
President Carter, Oprah, is trying to exert his leadership to drum up more support for the much-needed legislation on his energy package. On his first day back from his Western vacation, the president met with 11 governors and later with 100 business executives asking for their backing for this legislation. Carter also pitched a plea to the rest of Congress.
And I ask you today as President, you as American citizens and leaders, to put aside any reservations you might have about specific details of this legislation and put the interest of your country first. And I believe that when you do so, that your own personal career and the viability, effectiveness, and the prosperity of your own business itself will be enhanced. I predicted when I made my evening television fireside chat in April that I would lose 15 percentage points in the public opinion polls if I went forward with this legislation. I've not been disappointed in my prediction.
Independent petroleum producers don't like the president's energy plan either. Their spokesman, Buzz Hoover, told Steve Frazier this morning that his group doesn't want any price legislation. Hoover says independent producers haven't been going after the vast oil and gas supplies deep in the earth because they say it's not profitable.
There are two major problems confronting the industry at this point in time.
one of which is just the overall uncertainty of what the rules of the game are going to be. This has kept a number of companies from either entering into the business or expanding their operations. The other would be an adequate price. We still pay very cheap prices in the United States for our energy as it comes out of the ground, and until we raise the prices to an appropriate price, it's not going to make economic sense to go after the deeper oil and gas.
Hoover says that we have a choice right now. We can pay higher prices to foreign oil producers, or we can guarantee what he calls fair prices to independent American oil producers. Well, President Carter's loss of support isn't just at the Capitol with Congress. Recent polls are showing the president slipping in popularity all across the country. And his loss is another Democrat's gain.
Senator Edward Kennedy was the most popular Democrat with 32% of the vote. Carter followed, but with only 17%, and California's Governor Jerry Brown was third with 14%. Head-to-head, Kennedy opens the lead over Carter even more. It's Kennedy 51%, Carter 25%, and undecided 24%. But the depth and breadth of Carter's political problem is revealed in his standing in the gut vote of the Democratic Party, those voters most influential in choosing the Democratic presidential candidate. Again, Kennedy leads Carter in the Middle Atlantic and Northeastern states by 36 to 16%, in big cities by 37 to 13%, among union workers 36 to 13%. Kennedy also leads Carter among blacks by 54 to 16%, among Catholics 34 to 14%, and among Jews, Carter gets only 2% to Kennedy's 31%. What this poll shows is that President Carter's general loss of popularity has become a political problem for him within the Democratic Party, so much so that if this were a presidential election year, Mr. Carter would have a hard time getting his party's nomination to run for re-election. Catherine Mackin, ABC News, Washington.
Delaware's House of Representatives has voted thumbs down on an attempt to get approval for the D.C. Voting Rights Amendment. The House voted 21 to 16 against a resolution ratifying the proposed constitutional amendment. Now, that amendment would give D.C. residents full voting representation in the Congress.